Welcome everybody to this webinar on post-COVID-19 career preparation. I hope everyone is well, ready to gain some valuable knowledge this evening. It's Friday evening. I hope everyone is still okay, not too tired. I hope you guys can still focus on what is going on. So, let's dive into the topic. Graduating, career, job, all these words. For students, when they hear this, it strikes up a huge chain of questions, doubts, insecurities, even confusion at most times. Some students have it all figured out. They know what they're going to do, they know where they're going to go apply for their jobs, and they know what's going to happen in their life. But most students, I believe, are still having a lot of difficulties when it comes to this topic. They don't know what they're going to do. They are very unsure about how they're going to do it. So before I go deeper into this, I would like to introduce our speaker for today. So our speaker, she completed her tertiary education at University Putra, Malaysia, UPM. She did her master's degree in human resource development and completed with distinction in 2006. And right now, she's doing her PhD in education management. She joined APU in 2013 and she is one of the most well-known and friendliest HR lecturers, sorry. So I think you guys would have guessed a bit by now. She is Ms Subaashnii Suppramaniam, also known as Ms Shubi. Hello,
Hi,
Miss.
Yonesh. Hi, that was a hi. Hello, hi. There was a bit of too much of an intro. Actually, I
It's
joined
okay, Miss.
ABU in 2010.
I see.
Yep, yeah,
So
been quite long
going back
there.
to the topic, Miss.
Yeah,
So
sure.
as I was saying, this whole thing with these insecurities and all, there is one thing that will help students, and that was supposed to be the internship programs. However, during this pandemic, internship itself has changed a lot. It was supposed to be a test run where students can have an overview of how the environment is going to be, how they should behave, how they should dress, what are the disciplines they need to have. So there's a lot of issues where nowadays the internship, there are some students who couldn't complete their internship. Me, for example, I couldn't complete my internship. I only did it for 3 weeks and then I had to stop for MCO. And then there are people who do it online interns. So it's the same as having an online class. They do it all from the comfort of their homes. And then there are those who don't get a job at all because companies out there are so busy releasing their existing employees. They don't have space to welcome in interns. So at this situation, the students are being forced to, they are being pushed into the career world without having without any exposure to how it's going to be. So that is our theme for today. And with that, I will leave it to Ms. Ruby to start with her presentation. So how it's going to go is she's going to share with us what she has, some tips, some guidances. And throughout the things, you guys can ask questions. And after she's done, we will proceed with the Q&A session. Okay, Miss?
Thank you, Yua. Before I go on with my slide, let me just tell you that let's keep it very casual. I'm not going to take too much of your time running through my slides and telling you details about numbers and figures about what McKinsey have found, what Deloitte have found. Enough. We have enough information about that for the last 2 years, and we are still receiving information, and we are still receiving numbers, and from one end to another end, one industry to another industry, and so. I'm just going to go very focused in dealing with what you will need to take away at the end of the webinar, okay, at the end of our discussion. I will share my screen. I've got very little slides to share with you. Once I complete the slides, you can prepare your questions, and then maybe you can put it in the chat box or comment box, and then I will see if I can try my best to help you with that. All right. So I'm going to share my screen, and you got to tell me if you are able to see it, right?
Okay.
Okay. what I'm projecting? Can you see Yuva?
Yeah, we could do.
Can you all see what I'm projecting here, Yuva?
Yeah, yeah.
All right. Okay. Once again, very good evening. This is Subaashnii, or usually people call me in AP as Shubi. Today is Friday, and we are almost at the end of the weekend, and everyone's looking forward towards the weekend. And so, first of all, I would like to thank Yuva and his team, Mr. Iswar, and the rest of the other tourism students for organizing this very interesting webinar. Okay, mainly focused in giving information and the best way, in a best way possible to the graduates out there, or the ones who are going to be graduating. So I chose this topic: preparing graduates for a new way of working post COVID-19 employment. The reason why I didn't say COVID-19 or working in a COVID-19 environment is because we are done with the COVID-19, and now the whole world, the whole workforce is moving towards a post-COVID-19 era. We had end of 2019, the pandemic hitting us, and then we suffered the whole of 2021, going through the crisis, and now we are almost to the end of 2021. Sorry, last year was 2020 and 2021, and in another month or so we are going into another year, and we are still dealing with it. But we have seen a little bit of improvement, and the workforce, the environment has been changing. Okay, people have slowly moved on. People are looking at the better prospect in going on ahead with their daily routines, and so what we are going to look at today is I'm going to take you through a little bit of brief about what happened. Okay, how COVID-19 actually came by, and then not too much of it, but how actually we came to know about it, how it impacted, and what are the pros and cons, what were the advantage and disadvantages of this pandemic. And then we will go ahead looking at what is the future need, what is the new arrangement going to be like. And then I'm going to guide you with certain skills that you will require in order to take and upskill yourself so that you are prepared for the coming environment or coming challenges that you may have once you start working. Right. To start off, now this is interesting. Um, since 2019, end of 2019, or since this past 2 years, okay, more of 2020 and 2021, these are the common words that we have been using in our daily lives, not only with our colleagues, with our friends, with our family. Anywhere you socialize, these are the common words that we see. We, of course, it started off with COVID-19, and then we heard the word lockdown, circuit breaker, coronavirus, working from home, social distancing, sanitizer, and all. So this is how we have seen the change that has happened in the past 2 years. Right? Words which were never common to one another, it has become like a must in our daily conversation. Right? You step out of your house, the first thing that you put on is your mask. You go to your office or you go to any premises, the first thing that you do is you sanitize, keep your social distancing, you follow SOPs. And then we went through several lockdowns, and then you ask your friends, hey, have you got your vaccines? Which vaccine did you get? And so on. What was the side effects? And so on. And moving on with that, we also I started seeing my students using such words in the assignments. Pandemic. Okay, initially we only used the word COVID-19, and then to some synonyms came by, and then we see a lot of these words being used popularly in essays and exams and assignments. And so well done to that, because you are in the current, you are up to the current situation, okay, in applying it to your field. So let's look at some of the territorial impact of COVID-19 in the past 2 years. In 2020, COVID-19 affected almost all countries and more than 50 million people around the world. Obviously, it started off in 2019, but at that point of time, we were never so affected by it. In fact, only China was coming very close with this pandemic. And in fact, they thought they could actually curb within its nation. But slowly, we noticed that it started impacting the other countries as well. And by mid 2020, more than half of the world's population had experienced lockdown. Okay, even Malaysia, Singapore, our neighboring countries, we were having a lockdown. Okay, at various stages. And then when we complete one lockdown, and then there are several stages that we had to go through before we could actually easily move out and socialize as usual. And beyond the health and human tragedy of coronavirus, it is now widely recognized that the pandemic triggered most serious economic crisis since World War II. So coming close to World War II, so you can imagine how much of impact COVID-19 has actually brought to the mankind. And the nature of the crisis is unprecedented. Beyond the short term repeated health and economic shocks, the long term effects of human capital, productivity, and behavior, everything has changed. Okay, it has impacted the health, it has impacted the social norms, it has impacted economy, the productivity, and even employees' behavior at work. And the COVID crisis have massively improved some of the pre-existing trends or pre-existing skills or pre-existing practices of organization, which is in particularly the digitalization, technology, use of technology. And it has shaken the world, setting in motion waves of change in wide range of possible trajectories. So as much as we saw the impact of COVID-19, or we are still feeling it, we slowly saw how it actually impacted each and every aspects of the economy, each and every aspects of the society, employees' behavior, workplace, companies, and so on. But it also brought some positivity whereby we saw the acceleration of technology. Now, going from there, now let's see, for better or worse, why I put a for better or worse, or why I defined it as for better or worse, is because in every situation, or in every crisis, or in every happy moments or sad moments, there's always an advantage and disadvantage to that situation. So when we look at the COVID-19, okay, when we are looking at COVID-19, or we address it as the crisis, okay, when we look at COVID-19, it brought some advancement, or it brought some advantages to the society, or to the business particularly. So first, you see, it pushed the fast forward button on the digital access. What tech companies should have taken, or would have taken 5 years to reach to a certain state in terms of technology advancement, was done within a year and a half. So that actually pushed the fast forward button to ensure that companies were actually able to do so without making any lengthy processes to it. Second, it provided companies with perfect opportunities to innovate. So when fast forward button was hit, things had to be done faster. Things had to be done very rapidly. So when things need to be done faster, you need to find innovative way. You need to find creative ways to do things. So this was observed in organizations. It also highlighted the importance of training and upskilling. When innovation came by, more innovation and more creativity came by. So we needed, or the organization needed, to train and upskill their workforce. And that actually showed that there was some improve in productivity. Now, coming to productivity, it is not only the training and upskilling that they receive, but also working from home. Initially, working from home was not an option given to everyone. But after the crisis, or after COVID-19, it became a mandatory for 90% of the workforce to work from home. So when that happened, there were two sides to it. Some people enjoyed, some employees or some individuals enjoyed working from home. Some had challenges in working from home, especially with the resources, with the lack of resources that they have at home compared to their workstation. But when it came to those who enjoyed working from home, they realized, okay, studies showed that they realized that they're saving time in terms of traveling to work, they're saving times in terms of uh, transportation, and they were able to save. So when they were able to save time and money, the productivity that they put into their work at home increased. Okay, though the engagement level lagged, but the productivity of work increased. And that allowed businesses to save money as well. When half of your employees or 90% of your employees you switch them from office-based environment to work from home environment, that actually saves a lot of money for the organization. All right, and it also encouraged a stronger sense of community. Stronger sense of community is where every individuals were looking out for one another. Organization was looking out for employee safety, employees benefits, employees health, and so on. Okay, so these were the good things which actually we can enjoy, or we enjoyed. Right, but of course the crisis brought the worst in all of us, or in business and everything. It affected every country financially. It affected the technology, people, customers, consumers, everyone. And to explain further, it is actually a crisis management for business. So every businesses had to go through a crisis management process. Okay, and the crisis management is not to see how well they can perform, but just to deal with great strategies which were built in, or which were created in 2018, 2019, looking forward for 2020. Everything shattered, and what they needed to do was come up with emergent strategies for businesses so that they can survive, not to perform, but just to see if the organization or the business or the company can just sustain for that period of time. And of course, that led to a lot of economic downfall. And then we saw the tremendous increase of health issues, and the number of cases that we saw for these pandemics increased like in doubles. In fact, in Malaysia, there was a period of time every day it was increasing like 50%, 30%, 40% in numbers. And then there were also debates about the vaccines, right? Which vaccine is better, how soon, how late, and how efficient and how relevant, and layoffs as well. Right, and we had travel restriction. We couldn't travel. People stranded in other country couldn't come back to meet their family, and business travelings, and the travel industry itself, okay, saw a halt. And slowly we see a lot of mental and health issues coming up as well, mental health, and that limited socialization as well. So what we actually need is this, right? This is what we were dealing with, right? Socialization is what usually we look for, but that was really limited, and therefore we actually could not function as how we used to function in the past, right? So that was what was happening. Now, moving from that, we saw the advantage and also the disadvantage and the worst part of what COVID has actually done to us. Now, let's look at the impact of COVID-19 on jobs or the employment itself, right? Generally, right, I will focus on Malaysia, but generally worldwide, people lost their jobs, right? People lost their jobs, and then the pandemic actually certainly didn't bring any good prospects in terms of employment, right? It did see an advantage and disadvantage. Advantage is whereby we saw some new employments taking place in new industry, right? This industry actually took advantage of the COVID-19 situation and built their businesses. But most of the businesses could not sustain because of the disadvantage the pandemic brought to their business. So technology advancement accelerated in the organization, okay, and then we saw a lot of how work was done previously was not needed anymore, okay. People were asked to leave organization, or people were laid off because of the organization itself couldn't sustain in the business itself, right? And then so we also saw an employment dilemma where people were not getting jobs. People who left jobs were not able to actually get back into the workforce. And then young graduates still looking out for jobs and seeing what they can do. And people who have left job, or people who have actually lost their job, just settling in for simple jobs just to sustain financially, or some are switching into hardcore jobs which actually paid very little. So there were a lot of dilemma and a lot of challenges faced by employees out there. The employment itself, the labor market itself tremendously dropped, and it impacted a lot of firms in Malaysia and globally. right? And we saw a lot of job arrangements as well. So the concept of working from home became very famous. Organization opted to give employee the option of working from home, and then mode of working from home was suitable for a lot of people, right? And on the other side, a lot of people who lost their job were not able to keep up with what was happening, and then we saw a lot of social issues happening at the same time. And so there is a chain reaction to this. Okay, when unemployment rate increases, when labor demand decreases, and so there will always be a chain reaction to the businesses and the society as well. Now, moving ahead, so I mentioned earlier in the first slide itself, we are looking at a post-pandemic era. We are no longer looking at what has happened or what is happening, but we need to move on. So the future of work after
Mishubi,
COVID-19. Yes?
Mishubi, your slide is still in the
Yes, you
first
are?
one.
Oh, is it? I'm already actually in slide 7.
I think it lagged a bit there. It's still stuck at the.
Okay.
Okay, now it's
Which one?
stuck at the other one. Moving ahead post pandemic.
Yeah, I'm there.
Okay.
Okay. Shall I continue?
Yeah, I mean.
All right. Okay. So moving ahead, we are going to look at post-pandemic. Now, post-pandemic doesn't have a duration, right? It's going to be now on, right? We can't sit in an era where we think about what has happened, what we went through. But what we need to do now is how we are going to move ahead, right? So what will the workforce look like? Yuva, do you see my next slide?
No, miss, it's still there. It's still stuck
Okay, I
at the
think it
moving
moves
ahead one.
very slowly. So what do you see now?
It's still in the same one. Okay, now it's changed. Now it's in the future of
Change? Okay.
work post COVID.
All right. Yes, thank you. So the future of work post COVID-19, how the work environment is going to look like upon moving forward. So like I said, everything is changing. So the nature of work itself is changing. So flexible work arrangement is the fashion now. Okay, moving ahead, that is what contingent work is the fashion. Hybrid working style is going to be the next thing, and it's going to stay. All right. And next, we're going to see an environment where skill-based road to recovery and equity. That means we are going to be looking or hiring employees who are very skillful. What skills? We don't know. Okay, at the moment we know certain skills are required, but moving forward in another 10 years time to come, we don't know what skills will be required. So we need to keep up with what is happening, identify, and research needs to be done in what's going to happen in the future. So therefore we are able to prepare ourselves to meet those environment or that situation. Reskilling and upskilling must be a collective priority. So reskilling and upskilling, when I say a collective priority, it has to be the organization's effort and the individual's effort as well. So organization needs to make sure that they are able to provide relevant training, okay, relevant information, relevant coaching or mentoring, anything that's sought to ensure that their employees are able to adapt with the post-pandemic or post-COVID environment. What environment? It depends on the nature of the job. It depends on the nature of the business that the organization is into. And on the employees from the employee side, what you need to do is you need to find ways to upgrade yourself. Right? This is especially, I'm referring to young graduates or future graduates. You need to find time to upgrade yourself besides just graduating. Right? I will come to that later. Right, moving forward. Okay, Yuva, can you please tell me if you see my next slide? It says the shift.
No, miss, it's still here. I think you didn't share the you didn't share
Okay, what about
the thing.
now?
Yeah, now it's changed.
Okay,
I
all
don't know
right.
what
I
is
think I need
different.
to, pardon?
Now it's
So is
different. Now
it,
it's the shift.
okay. Yeah, I will close and open like how I've been doing for the past 3 slides. No worries. All right, so what is the shift? So what is the shift or moving forward? What's happening? So we see a lot of increase in remote working. Despite moving forward, I'm talking about post-pandemic, we see people are still working from home. In fact, myself, I've got options to work from home, and some days I go to the office, and when I speak to my friends and neighbors, they say these are the common arrangements that I see among working people. Right, and then we notice there's been an expanded data collection. In terms of workforce, organizations have been identifying how employees have been or monitoring how employees have been working from home. Naturally, when an employee goes to work, you can see how they are working, they report to you, they talk to you, they communicate to you, they socialize at work. So you're able to see how they are working, their performance. But when you put an employee remotely working from home or wherever, how do you monitor? So in that perspective, organizations or companies have increased their data collection in terms of monitoring. Okay, finding ways to monitor how employees log in, or what time they log in, what time they log off, or how soon and how fast they respond, or how often they come to the online meeting, and so that is very subjective. Okay, it's very subjective. Of course, we can say that companies or organizations shouldn't be monitoring people in that manner, and so, but that is very subjective depending on the type of industry and the requirement from the company or the businesses itself. And then we've got contingent worker expansion. Contingent worker expansion is where a lot of organization, another option that they have taken is they have actually they have actually moved permanent workers, right? Moved permanent workers or full-time workers, laid off them, and then taken contingent workers. Contingent workers are people who come and just work for certain months and all, and then they finish. So this is to change for a change perspective, and also for financial reasons. And then we've got expanded employees' role as social safety net. So employers have been taking care of employees, changing their benefits, changing their compensation packages, and so. And then we've got separation of critical skills and role. Okay, whatever skills which was required in the past, all right, 2 years or 3 years, or in fact few years ago, is no longer going to be important, and new skills need to be developed. Right, and some companies did this dehumanization of employees, where they only saw employees as workers and not people. Right, and again, that is very subjective, depending on the organization, depending on the nature of the business, how an employee is treated or how they will be treated. It is very subjective. And emergence of new top tier employers. Okay, employees started grading or either evaluating employers during this time. A lot of employees started seeing how employers treated employees during these difficult times, right? And then transition from designing for efficiency to designing for resilience. Companies need to be more resilient these days, rather than just becoming very efficient or effective. And so companies or organization which was more resilient managed the situation better compared to the rest. And of course, increase in organizational complexity. Now moving forward, you will see a lot of organization what I mean is post-pandemic, you will see a lot of organization going through merging, acquisition, and collaboration, and so there will be there will be some form of complexity in terms of arrangement within the organization. So this is the shift that we are looking at. So when we look at these shifts here, we see a lot of changes, a lot of demand being put in the process itself. The process of going through this shift itself, it looks very tiring, and it requires a lot of effort, right? So now, so how do you survive? So as a young graduate or as a future graduate, how would you survive, or how will you sail through this whole process? What kind of skills will you need? Right now, I'm not going to go through and tell you these are the right skills, these are the wrong skills, this is you must have, if you don't have it you will not succeed. And so these are generally things that you can build, skills that you can actually develop from now on. Okay, let's look at the skills. Skills you'll need to succeed in a post-coronavirus business world. First one, leadership. Now, leadership doesn't mean that you need to hold a leadership position or you need to be a leader in order to show how well you, how skillful you are, or how you will be able to move forward in the post-pandemic era. Leadership is self-leadership, right? So you are taking a self-leadership, or you are leading yourself in this whole process of moving forward, upskilling yourself, reshaping yourself, okay, in terms of your career, in terms of your development, in terms of your skills, knowledge, ability, and so on. Lead yourself towards that way. Second, this is very important. Now you're going to go into a working environment which is very volatile, which has gone through a crisis, and most of the organizations out there are recovering. Okay, so hence a lot of changes, a lot of new processes, procedures, business models will change. So you need to ensure that when you join, when you work, you are able to adapt to these changes. Change management. In change management, we teach about adaptability. How well you can adapt to the situation, to the scenario which is around you. How flexible you are to move from one situation to another situation. So that is very important, especially you being new in an industry or you being new in a workforce. It's very important for you to ensure that you are flexible with this arrangement. Third one is critical thinking. Critical thinking is one which is not necessarily only for post-pandemic. Generally, critical thinking is very important. I always tell my young students or my graduating class, critical thinking. Critical thinking, when you think critically, when I say think critically in terms of employment, when you want to find a job, think critically what you want to look for. When you go for your interview, look from a very critical perspective. When you work, act critically. When you're given a task, think critically and complete it critically. Think differently and see how focused you can be. Right? Because, like I said, the situation or the environment, the business environment, the workforce, the work environment is not going to take care of you. You need to take care of yourself and sail through the challenging workforce. Tech savvy, I think all the young generation nowadays are very savvy in terms of technology, right? Social media, use the social media in order to promote whatever you think which you are good at, right? You can find good skills in, not good skills. What I'm trying to say is when you use technology effectively and responsibly, you will notice that that will actually help you in your employment or in your workforce, or in when you start working, regardless of whichever industry that you are. So I think that comes in very easy for the younger generation now, using technology and being very adaptive towards it. The fourth one is communication and emotional intelligence. So we don't meet people. Okay, most likely when you start working, you will be asked to work from home. So you probably won't be meeting your colleagues. You won't know who will be next to you. Who you will probably see them virtually in computers and talking to them virtually, and so that will lack your physical communication skills. So you need to build that up, right? You need to see how you can improve that part of it, how you can meet people, how you can find ways to improve that part of communication. And emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence is how you are able to think and not react in whichever way that you like. All right. Emotional intelligence is finding, not finding, but reacting the right way. Okay, not holding your emotion, but emotionally you are strong enough to handle situations, right? And of course, when you talk about critical thinking, you will have creativity and innovation. Find creative ways to do your job. Even it's just a plain job, find a creative way to complete and be more innovative in whatever you do. Right? So these are skills that you will see. It will not come in the books or subjects or exams or essays that we give you. These are skills that you need to develop yourself. These are things that you skills and abilities that you need to learn. The more you meet people, the more you communicate with people, the more you uplift your skills. And so now, going next, so I'm going to share with you something which is interesting here. Now, when you graduate, you will be doing your job hunting process, and so simple tips for today's job search will be, when you graduate, okay, looking at this post-pandemic environment, when you graduate, create a timeline, right? Create a timeline and like saying like how soon you would like to end in a job or what type of job and what's your timeline like. Build your connection, okay? Build your connection with the business world out there, or whichever environment or whichever field that you are in. Build your connection, get in contact with organization, get in contact with recruiters, get in contact with headhunters and so on. Now, learn additional skills. This is the time I tell my students, while you are in the midst of busy completing your tertiary education, do not forget to build other skills. We have a lot of online platforms which offers online courses to actually develop your skills. If you are a business student, I think you should improve your IT skills. If you are an IT student, I think you should improve your soft skills. If you're an engineering student, I think it is very important for you to improve your communication skills. So do not limit yourself to the skills that is within your field only, right? So you need to see what you can add on. If you're going for an interview, I have candidate A and candidate B. I look at your resume, right? I will obviously go for for an employee or a candidate who has got skills in the field that I'm interested in. And also I'll be looking at skills, an additional skill that he or she can actually bring into my organization. Now, rebuild your resume, right? How you rebuild your resume, there are lots of platforms which actually tells you how to create a good resume and build your profile. Okay, profiling is very important when you want to brand yourself. Now, most of the interviews these days are happening virtually. So how do you prepare for a virtual interview? Treat virtual interviews like real-time interviews. Okay, dress properly, speak well, okay, be on time, the simple things that you do when you go for a physical interview. And apply jobs in growing industry. Post-pandemic, do your research and see which are the industry which is slowly growing. All right, look out for this information, do your research and see how you can actually identify opportunities in this industry. Again, be very flexible with what you are looking for. Don't be too focused only on one plan, and do not forget on having the other way of looking at things, right? And of course, being patient. This is not a good time for job hunting. Okay, it is a very difficult moment. In fact, for people who have been in the industry working for 20, 30 years have been laid off. Imagine you who is just going. So you need to have patience and see what it has to offer you. Now, now workplace trends in 2020. So now that you have the skills, you will need to know what is going to happen or what you need to know for a successful year. The coming year, 2020, if any one of you are graduating and you're going to be looking for a job in 2020, what you need to know, these are the things which is taking place. So hybrid working is here to stay. So what's next? So we are not going to go back to just fully 100% going physical. We are probably going to do 50-50, or probably some organization have mentioned that they're not going to go physical and they're going to go fully hybrid, and either they're going to go hybrid or fully online. And so hybrid is both dual working method. And challenges and concern for the remote and hybrid workers. So some people enjoy hybrid mode, and some people find it very challenging in conducting this hybrid mode. And moving forward, people also are breaking up with our offices, or at least changing the relationship. So we're having a break off with our office. So we are no longer spending much time sitting in the office, chit-chatting, having coffee, or sitting at the pantry and socializing with friends and so on. And the other thing that is happening, or that's going to happen, is the end of weird office perks and more benefits that make sense in 2020. So moving forward, now you're not going to be traveling, you're not going to be going to the workplace, you're not going to be physical at work and so on. So the benefits and benefit and compensation packages that the organization have created for employees is going to be changing. So the change is depending on how the hybrid working arrangement is going to be like, how what is the percentage of people coming to office. Depending on that, depending on the needs of the employees, that is what more the organization is going to arrange the perks and benefits towards that. right? And then we have got this thing called the Great Resignation. Okay, Great Resignation is where Microsoft found a study showing that moving forward, you're going to see this frequent thing happening: people joining and leaving organization. As it is prior to the pandemic, we saw that, but it's going to become more intense. People join and people leave organization in a very a rampant manner. So that's called Great Resignation. So for the potential for the job of switching jobs, okay, the more skillful you become in a certain industry or certain area in your job, you will switch. Okay, that is going to be very obvious. And then finally, we see how people are managing employees' well-being and mental health. Okay, so we see a lot of talks, we see a lot of awareness about mental health lately, right? That is one more thing that every organization or every employee must take care. Okay, so because of the crisis, everybody have gone through some trauma. We have lost friends, we have lost family, we have lost our near and dear, and we have lost many things in life which was very important to us. And so in terms of managing mental health is also very important. This is what the post-pandemic work environment and requirement is going to be. And change and move ahead. What tomorrow will look like in the midst of post-COVID-19. So it is easy for us to say post-COVID-19 moving forward, and whatever I have just explained to you, it's everything which is research and which is just identified. But how it will work, how efficient it's going to be, how effective it's going to be for the new workforce, we are still yet to know. Okay, so it's still a big question mark what is going to be like this post-pandemic era. But one thing is for certain: big changes are coming. Okay, big changes. We have seen a great change in the past 2 years, so bigger change is coming, and specifically to the workforce itself. All right, and while we can't say for certain exactly what these changes, okay, so we won't know what these changes are because things are changing and things are moving in a very different direction. And so, but what we can do is, or what you can do as a graduate or as a young graduate or future graduates, you must move ahead. And finally, I've got two things to tell you. Okay, when I talk about skills, when I talk about how it is very important for graduates or young students to upgrade your skills, right? Imagine you have your hands are your wings, right? You have got your left wing, you have got your right wing. So your wings become stronger the more you nurture it, all right? All right, the more you take care of it, all right? So imagine your wings are your skills. The more skillful you become, the better you will fly high in your career. The more skills, knowledge, ability that you acquire, the better your wings are and you're able to fly high in your career. And another thing I will tell you, treat the skills that you have like the three primary colors in life: blue, yellow, and red. Okay, okay, so these three primary colors must be the important skills that you must have in your life. All right, so that will actually later ensure that you are able to have the rest of the other skill, which will help you with sustaining and becoming better in your employment in the future, and also dealing with this post-pandemic environment. Right. Okay, that's all from my side. Okay, Yuvanish, I think I'm done with my slides. I will bring it back to you.
Yes, thank you for that, Miss. Miss Shubi, can you hear me?
Welcome.
Okay. Yeah, thank you for that, Miss Shubi. Uh, there were a few things that
Welcome.
I noticed pretty well during your presentation. One of the first things is leading yourself. So I agree that is actually very important during this time because we can't be waiting for somebody to teach us what we need. especially during this pandemic time. So it's always better for us to learn what we can and try to improve ourselves, and also finding creative way to do our jobs, because we see a lot of people nowadays, they feel like this is the job for them, they feel like this is what they want, and a few years later they feel like, no, this is not what I want, this is getting boring. So I feel like this is one of the main reasons, because they don't find a creative way to do their jobs. Okay, so moving on, we're going to move to the Q&A session. So let's see some questions from the audience. Okay, we have one here from Beryl. What is your recommendation to improve critical thinking?
Okay, hi Beryl. Okay, that's a good question. I actually didn't have time to actually explain to you how I just mentioned the word be critical, critical thinking. How you can improve your critical thinking skill, that is a question. So if you ask me, I will tell you from my experience. Critical thinking requires you to think differently. Right, think differently. So at any instance, when you are given a task or when you're given something to think about, you always think the straight way, okay, of dealing with things. Critical thinking here means that you try to think from a different perspective. Even if that thinking process leads you from a very negative perspective, then you bring it on to how you can actually allure it to your own way of doing things. So critical thinking needs a bit of experience. Okay, the more you start doing your job, okay, the more you become well versed with your job or anything that you do, you will notice that this skill will slowly be better within you, right? And reading and looking out for more information, doing a bit of research, and so that will also help your critical thinking process. Beryl?
Okay, I think that's good enough. So what we're going to do here is, I have prepared some questions. I've asked
Yeah.
my friends a few questions, what doubts they have. So while waiting for the audience to come up with some questions, we are going to go with this. And so one of the most interesting questions I see here: will we get a job?
Will you get a job? How soon are you graduating? You are? How soon are you graduating? In another, you have
Me,
another semester to go,
I
right?
am graduating. Yes.
You will be graduating next year. Yeah. So you want me to tell the truth or you want me to lie? Okay, I will tell you. I mean, I will speak generally. That is a very subjective question. Will you get a job? Now, you graduate in a certain field, and but if you're going to be very picky and you're going to be very, very choosy about what you do, who you want to be hired, or waiting for people to come and hire you, and then I can tell you, you will not get a job as soon as possible as you graduate. Okay, so that is why I said flexibility and adaptability is very important. If you have that too, I can tell you, the minute you finish, you graduate, there will be job in hand. You must be able to be flexible. Okay, if you like, you are a tourism student, you like tourism, right? That is your field, that is what you are doing. But if you graduate and you see, obviously the tourism industry is doing very bad, or it's very low at the moment, but do not be sad because of this is what is happening, and wait until the industry picks up, then only search for a job, and that's not going to happen. So you need to find alternative ways to see where you can go and come back to the interest that you have. So go ahead. I will not say just go take up any jobs that you want, but be very specific but flexible and adapt to the changing nature and move ahead. Right? But I can't tell that this is the industry which is going to do very well, this is the industry which is going to boom up very soon, and this is the industry that is going down. And so no, you need to ask yourself, when I finish, when I graduate, where I want to be and how flexible, and whether I can adapt to the situation or not. If you have that mindset, if you build up your skills, then don't worry, you will get a job. Right?
All right, miss. Okay, we have a question here from the audience.
Mm-hmm.
It's taking a while to load. Okay. Question from Burhan. Which course are you offering for business analytics?
So I don't know if it's a
Which course are
question
you
or
offering?
it's just a statement. Yeah, I'm not sure
Uh,
if it's a question, but if Burhan, you're talking about business analytics, if you're asking me if business analytics is important or what, of course, business analytics is very important because of this analytics, because of these figures, because of these data. That is how we are able to actually come up with a lot of, we are able to derive a lot of informations and so on in every aspects of the business, right? Yeah. I see another
okay.
question.
Next
Do you
we
have
have
any suggestions on how to do well in an
yeah.
interview? Is that the question? Yeah, I see Yuki. Yuki is asking a question. Yuki is asking how well to do in an interview. Okay. Earlier, one of the slides I mentioned, be prepared for the virtual interviews that you will be facing, regardless of virtual or either physical interview that you need to take. Going for an interview is where you go and promote yourself. Okay, you want your employer to actually look at you and your future employer to look at you and say, I must have this person. When you leave the interview or when you leave the room, they must say that we need this guy in our organization. So the impact that you bring or the impact that you put or the impact that you give them is very important. So how do you create impact? So when you go for an interview, of course you have your resume. Got your resume, which is probably given to them and they would have gone through and the HR would have gone through and so. But what they want to see you there is not what you have scored, what grades you have scored, what is the definition of leadership. They're not going to ask you all these things. What they want you to tell them is how or why they should hire you. So to answer this question, you must ask yourself how you can profile yourself. How do you develop yourself? How do you reskill yourself? How do you make yourself better than the next person who is going to go into the interview? So that is why I always tell my student that doing well in interview is not about carrying a good CV and good resume. How you talk, how you speak, how you leave an impression, that is what which counts. Even if you are just a graduate with just a third grader or third class graduate or what, but how you carry yourself and how motivated you are and how ambitious you are to get the job, that will actually promise you a good prospect for in the interview process itself. I see a very interesting question. Is APU's 99% employability reliable? I think that is quite reliable because you take me for an example. Okay, I've been in APU for the past 13 years. Okay, that's one. And I've known some of my students who have left, who have graduated and left, and success has been very successful in their career. And in fact, I've recently, about a month ago, one of my students who graduated beginning of this year, she actually messaged me and told me that she found a job and she's very happy despite this pandemic and all. So don't worry, Rakesh. As long as you're from APU, 99% employability is there for you.
We have a question from Jaren Singh.
Yes, Jaren, will HR become an important industry in future after the Pandemic, of course, Jaren. HR is no longer just admin role. Okay, HR is a strategic partner of an organization. Now HR is becoming more prominent in organization, and during this pandemic the role of HR has actually improved. And the significant role of HR have been realized by top levels and so. So moving forward, HR has got a bright future. So if you're graduating from HR, well done. And don't worry, you will see a different shift in the HR industry itself.
All right. Yes, I have another question now.
Yes.
So, let's say we are in a situation where, uh, okay, we have a job offer. It's something that we
Okay.
can do. It's something that we know we can do it, but it's not exactly what we want. Like we may have a maybe a dream to do another job, but that job, the chance is not there yet. So is it really worth uh, waiting for that, or should I take the opportunity and grab this one as it's here?
Okay, I'll tell you. I always wanted to be a doctor, a lawyer, engineer, everything keeps changing, okay. Our career path always changes from the time you choose your job, choose the what occupation you want to be. You were asked in the elementary school, when you grow up what you want to be. From that time until you graduate and you move on and you settle, and 20, 30 years after you complete your career, and then you realize you graduated, you studied for something, and you're sitting and doing something else, right? That is what the future is like. So your question was, you are interested in something, but something else came by. The opportunity for the one that you are interested in is not there, but something else came by. Whether to take or whether to put interest, and how long you have to be there, and how soon can you seek and go for your dream, right? So that's your question, I think. So again, Yuvnesh, I tell my students, you must be very flexible. Okay. Now, right, if you think the dream job that you are waiting for, it's going to take a couple of years, or it needs a little bit more reshaping in yourself, or it needs a little bit more of experience before you think you really can land on that dream job of yours, whatever comes at the moment which is similar to that, then you take. Because it's not that once you take up this particular job you're going to forget your dream and this is not going to add any value. No, it is only going to add on value to your experience, it's going to add on value to your skills, it's going to add on value to your knowledge. And just now we had somebody, Beryl, who asked how to be critical. These are the place, or these are the time where you will build these skills, build your critical skills, build your knowledge, and then that will make you better. When you go back and seek for your dream job, you will stand a better opportunity then. By that time you'll be very surprised. Sometimes your dream job may no longer be your dream job, but you'll be very happy with this. So that's very common. That is very common, very common in when people start working. Sometimes when I speak to some senior people, they tell me they were working in the bank, all right, they wanted to be a famous banker and they wanted to be a very successful banker, and so, but towards the end of their career they are holding different positions in different organization doing something else, but they say along the way they found passion to do the particular job, and so. So, not to choose your job, but passion. What is your passion in doing things? Go for that.
All right. Thank you, Miss. So
Welcome.
okay, I have one last question. We'll wrap it up here. Or
Yeah,
if some
sure.
other questions come up, then we can see that. But okay, so this one, we are slowly getting used to doing everything online, classes
Yeah.
online. As I said just now, interns, some people are doing it online. So let's say soon we are in a situation where everything moves back to physical. So are there any ways for us to quickly integrate ourselves into that mindset, into that physical work environment?
Okay, this is very interesting. There's a term in HR where we call reverse culture shock. Okay, I'm not sure if you came across that reverse culture shock. Now, 2 years ago, how was I speaking? I mean, how was I teaching? I go to work, I go to the lecture hall, I speak to my student, I interact with my student. That's how you attend your lectures, and how we go to work is the same, similar way, physical. But when the pandemic hit, everything switched. Everything went online, right? So everything went online. Yeah, now slowly we have become very comfortable. Very online seems to be very convenient, right? Seems to be very convenient. So your question is, when we need to go back physical, so that's like reverse culture shock. What used to be normal for you, now it's becoming abnormal for you, right? It's going to be very different for you, right? That's what I understand. So yeah, moving forward, Yovanish, we are organization, right? Majority of organization are not looking at physically bringing back employees. Okay, it's going to be hybrid mode moving on from now. So it's going to be both ways. So there will be a bit of flexibility. So those who opt for online may probably opt for online. Those who miss going to office physically, like me, I prefer meeting my students physically and teaching and talking to them, may have that option to do so and all. So it depends on the organization. But I would say that organization have, yeah, majority of organization have liked or have seen the convenience in doing this hybrid mode. So that will be what you will be looking out for.
All right, thank you, Miss. Thank you for that. So,
Welcome.
this marks the end of our event today. And once again, thank you to Ms. Shupri for this talk, for this insight into how we can prepare ourselves moving on from now. And thank you to the audience as well for participating in this event. And we hope to meet you guys in future events, hopefully, to give more tips, more guidance, and help more people, more students to calm themselves.
Yeah,
Thank you,
yeah,
everyone.
Yuvanish, thank you so much. Thank you so much for moderating the event, and thank you so much for giving me the opportunity. Just to some of my students or future graduates there, I hope and wish you all the best. Just remember one word, one takeaway word that you need to take away. I mean, if you need to take one word today, is skills. Remember, upgrade yourself. Okay, upgrade yourself, you will be better. And Yuvanish, well done for today, and that's an added skill for you as well. Right? Okay, thank you so much,
Thank
and have a good weekend, everyone.